Is this thing on? Hello there everybody, and welcome back to the FTOG server with me, TechnoJock, bringing you another Avant 3. I'm over at my Britannia area just now because I'm wanting to do some automation, and I'm wanting to use a mod that I haven't used before, and I've been looking for an excuse to use. I want to use RFTools Control to automate some of the things that we've been doing with Britannia. Now, I'm going to caveat this. I have already done some of this off camera to learn what I'm doing, but what I've done is very, very complicated, and I don't think it would be fair to you guys to jump straight into what I've done. So, I have done a lot of the Runic Altar already. Now, Toddy, I know, has done some of this. There's been a few of us on the server that have actually concurrently come up with solutions separately. We've been discussing it a little bit back and forth, but we've all actually come up with our own solutions to things, like the living wood and living rock. It's interesting that I've got half refined storage and half actually additions to do mine. Toddy's using entirely actually additions to do his one, and Grok and Link are both using entirely refined storage to do theirs one. So it's quite interesting how we're coming up with different solutions to the same problem around about at the same time. You'll be seeing this video considerably later than when Toddy's and Link's and Grok's videos have all gone up, but in actual fact these have all been developed at roughly the same time. It's just because my videos have got a bit of a delay before they come out, because I've got a bit of a backlog at the moment. So, that said, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to automate the Terrasteel agglomeration plate, because the automation for that is going to be largely the same as what we're doing for the runes, but a lot simpler because there's only one thing that we're going to be doing, and that's Terrasteel, whereas the runes, there's lots of them, so the program gets very complicated. Now, first up, what I'm going to do is I'm having a look at this thing, the iron dropper. Over here, I've used the automatic precision dropper from Actual Additions. But Grok told me that the iron dropper does exactly the same thing, but it's considerably cheaper, because the automatic precision dropper, if I have a look at the droppers, the iron dropper is iron and redstone, and the automatic precision dropper is all of this stuff with advanced coils and palace crystals. Yeah, so you can see a lot more expensive. Now, the reason I'm not using the automatic the open crate is because it doesn't play nice with phantom faces, and I'm wanting to use phantom faces to keep all of the gubbins downstairs. Probably because it doesn't actually have an inventory. But these do seem to work quite nicely with it. The only difficulty with this one is it needs a redstone signal on it, so I've put a lever on the top of this one. This one doesn't need a redstone signal, so I'm not sure. I might change it out if I don't like the look of the lever, but it seems to be a small price to pay. But I need to make myself some Terrasteel before I can really go forward. So I'm taking my magnet ring off, putting this down, and this should, work quite nicely to be able to make us a Terrasteel. And we'll do that before we go much further, because one of the other things I want to use that Toddy put me onto was the ranged collector. Over here I am using a vacuum chest that has been painted to look like grass, and that's great for over here, and it works nicely on the altar. But I'm wanting to use the ranged collector because it works, thank you, it works instantly and it works through blocks, whereas the vacuum hopper needs to actually have the thing kind of get into its block space before it can be hoovered up. And it takes a moment to do that. But that's good on there because we need to drop the stuff on. And there's some of the things that we need to pick up that will also need to be dropped onto the altar. I'm thinking of the more complex runes, the secondary runes, like the runes of spring, summer, autumn, winter. They need some of the basic runes to be dropped onto the altar. And if they're picked up before they get a chance to be put onto the altar, then that's no good for us. So I'm putting this range collector down here, and I'm going to set it to a whitelist and set that to terrasteel. So the only thing this is allowed to pick up is terrasteel. It's got quite a large range. It would actually reach over there. So that's why I'm putting that down there. And then I'm going to get our phantom face, and I'm going to put it down here. And then get our phantom connector, go back up and connect up our iron dropper. So blocks connected, good. Pop back down here and connect this up. Connections obstructed, either do not range or not loaded chunks are not the right type of block for this phantom device. Maybe it does not work with the iron dropper then. Well then, that's my decision made for me. I'll be back in a second once I have got, in fact, maybe I've got all the stuff. Maybe it's not that big a deal to make one of these straight away. I'll need one of those. I'll need one of those. And then I will need one of those. And that should be me. Yep. Okay, let's get that swapped out. That's interesting. Oops. Ooh. Weird. Bit of lag there. Okay, so let me get that so I can get rid of this. Interesting that it did not work. Nope. Let's get underneath this thing. There we go. Perfect. And I shall disguise that to look a bit more like an open crate like that one in the future. So there we go. That should be, I hope that's that linked now. I'll just save that. Go back down and see how we're getting on. What does this say? Yeah, it says it's fine. Perfect. That's good news. Right. Now what I want to do is I want to have this block there. Okay. Yep, that'll be fine. I actually need a few more of those, come to think of it. Need an input one, output one, redstone one. So let's move on to the RFTools stuff. So we're going to go on to RFTools Control. And I should be able to make a node or two. Where are you, nodes? Nodes, security manager. Node. Okay. Do. Cool. Two of them. Right. Because that's that one there. I'm going to want to have one, I think, around about there. And I need a chest, which is the input chest, which is going to go there, and put that there. Going to have to shift these around a little bit. I haven't actually laid this out in my mind very clearly. And yeah, it's not bad. Let's get some chests as well. And we can have that there, and that redstone one will be fine. This one, I think that's okay as it is. Yes, that should be okay as it is. And I want to get myself an importer, like that. And some redstone. Oops. Redstone. And I think I want a repeater. Now, I don't know if I've got any repeaters. No, I do not, but I'm sure I can make one. Like so. Oh. Does help. Right. I think we're just about ready to rock with this. So, that's going to go. Oop, where did that go? There it is. Right, so I'm going to come out of here, around like that, like that. That's going to be part of our redstone control, and then I'm going to need to connect this up. So I've got a plan on how this all kind of hangs together, and it's going to come up, and there's going to be the importer is going to go here like this. So it will import from there, but it's only going to be set to work without a redstone signal. Okay, that's going to be cool. And like that. I think I might want some speed upgrades for that as well, so I'm going to order some of those. That'll be good. Come back to that in a moment. Right, now for the actual RFTools Control stuffy. We want a processor for all of this stuff, and we're going to pop it there. That's what you're going to need. You have to have one of these things to be able to do this. I've got a programmer over here. I'm going to take it over just so it's going to be close by. And pop that there. It doesn't need to be against it, but what I will need is I will need a source of power. I've got one of those already, and I'll grab one of these power cells and pop that behind here, set it to output and put in that. There we go. That is this being powered. Excellent. Now then, we're ready to actually start things. Now I would say do not be alarmed by the complexity of this mod. It looks complex. There's some complex terminology that refers to programming things. Don't be alarmed by that. It's just names for stuff. The term opcode just really means it's a task. That's all it really means. I'm going to do that like that, and then this like that. There we go. I'm going to put this down, get this all connected over to that. We're going to come over this way. This should be the physical infrastructure pretty much done. Like that. There we go. Perfect. So, what we have here is... oh no, we need some more stuff. We need a crafter. Like that. Whilst that's going, we'll get those speed upgrades. They should be ready. Here they are. Is that still going? Okay. Get that in a second. Put these in here. We want things to be as quick as possible, and we will have our crafter will go there and be connected up around the back like that. Cool. Crafter, please. You are ready. And that will go there, and I'll get the recipe in a moment, but that's where the recipe for Terrasteel will go. So when we order some Terrasteel from the system, it's going to dump all of the ingredients into here. Obviously, this is being done, well, maybe not obviously, but this has been done so we don't have 5 lots of Terrasteel ingredients going up onto the agglomeration plate, because it won't work. It has to be done one at a time, and that's the complicated thing. So when we order some Terrasteel from the system, the ingredients will all get lumped into here, and the system will divvy up the ingredients into the single portions and put them into here. Once into this chest, they will be fed through with some conduit into the phantom face, which will put them up onto the top of the agglomeration plate. This is, of course, whitelisted, so only Terrasteel will come back into it. So once the Terrasteel forms, it will instantly be picked up by this thing, and the node here will detect that, and it will allow then the next crafting recipe to go on there. Meanwhile, what we're going to be doing is, when it's crafting, a redstone signal will be active on here, so we'll be able to keep a note of when something's crafting and when it's not. So redstone on for crafting, redstone off for agglomeration plate is free, and you can start crafting the next thing. So let's get going with the program. So first things first, in setting up the system, what we need to do is we need to set up our nodes. So we've got our 3 nodes and we need to put them all onto the network that we're going to use. So let's say this channel is going to be called Terra. Okay, makes sense. And this node is going to be the input node because it's going to handle all of the inputs into the system. Straightforward. This one is also going to be obviously on Terra, but it's going to be called Redstone, like that. And then this one up here is going to be Terra, but it's going to be output because it's going to deal with the outputs from the system. Cool. Right, let's go over to our processor and get it ready to go. Now, programs go up the top here. We can have a maximum of 6 programs. We're just going to have the one, so we're going to set up this slot, this first slot here. So we need to go resource allocation. And all that we need is we need 3 slots because there's going to be 3 inputs into the system, or 3 maximum slots we're going to need. We're going to need one for mana steel, we're going to need one for mana diamonds, and one for mana pearls. There we go. That's it. All set up. Cool. Turn that off, and then we need to have a CPU core for each program we're going to be running up the top here. So we only need 1. And then we need to get a network card. Thought I had one on me. Network card, please. Now you only need one of these if you are using nodes, but using nodes does make things an awful lot simpler. Otherwise, you've got to have everything right next to the processor itself. So pop that in there as well. That's just a basic network card. There is an advanced version, and the difference is that you can have, I think, inter-process communication. Not altogether sure about that, but certainly the range is the main difference. But everything's well within the 17 block range here, so that's perfectly okay. And the last thing you need to do is you need to run a command to set up the network. And you can find out what that command is. You can put in a question mark and it'll tell you. And there you can see it's net setup and then the thing that we call the nodes Terra. And you'll see it's found 3 nodes. No crafting stations, but we're not using crafting stations. So yeah, just whatever you call your channel there. Think of it like the Wi-Fi at home. That's the channel, and each of the nodes is a computer connected up to that. There we go. We're ready to go. So we're ready to start programming. There's actually one more very important thing that I need to do before we get started. I need to put a chest on top of our processor. And in there, I want to put one of these. I have got in my hand a crafting card. And on this crafting card, we can set the recipe up. So it's very much like the patterns that we use in the refined storage system. It tells the system how to craft something. So mana pearl, mana steel, mana diamond equals 1 terrasteel ingot. And we'll just pop that in the chest there. So let's get started programming. Do not be alarmed at what this looks like. The big grey bit in the middle is where we will lay out our program, but do not be concerned, there's no coding really to be done here. All it is arranging puzzle pieces into a little flow diagram, so it's actually very easy. The very confusing bit over at the side here, entitled opcodes, these are the puzzle pieces, but they are all color-coded. They're all arranged in sections for the different things that we want to do, and some of them I don't actually know what they do, but they are all fairly self-explanatory at the moment. So we don't need to delve too far into these, and we can filter them. So we can say these are the filters that deal with items or inventories, things like that. We could say these are the ones to do with liquids or crafting. So we can split it up and actually make it an awful lot simpler for ourselves. But we'll leave that off at the moment. So as I say, we use these and to build up our flow diagram. And you will need a program card. I have got some on me at the moment, but you'll need one of these to save your program to, and then we will just get going. So probably these top three are the ones that you will most likely end up using to begin with. So you've got the start of your program has to be triggered by an event of some description, and in this case we're going to start off with a repeat event. Okay, it could be redstone on or redstone off, but we're going to use timer just now. I'm going to pop it up here. You can put it anywhere you like and you can move it around. And the first thing you will notice, it has got a little flashing dot on it there, and we have got another section opened up to us down here that says ticks and signal. The flashing dot says that you have to fill in some of these. It means there's a problem with how it's currently set up, so we can go down here and have a look. So it being a repeat, it repeats every so often, so it has ticks. So ticks between each execution. The little dot button is what you need to click to set these things, and it will tell you a brief description of what that means. This one you will see has got an orange bracketed thing that says it's optional, so you don't have to set that. So we're going to set this up to run every second, so it's not going to be too often. It's not going to overload the server. And we'll just set it to that, and you'll see that the little dot has gone away because we don't need to set the optional one if we don't want to. I do in this situation, and you probably will yourselves, and you can set this here to be true. All that means is that yes, this is going to trigger every second, but perhaps our program takes longer than a second to actually run. So rather than it actually triggering off the same program once a second, it'll wait until the program's finished before it actually runs another instance of it. But like I say, there could be situations where you want that to actually trigger once a second, regardless of whether it's finished. And then we can start building up our program. Now, we've already said that what we want it to actually do is to make sure that it doesn't start crafting when it's already doing something. And this redstone control circuit here was going to do that. So if this redstone is on, it means the agglomeration plate's busy and we don't want anything to happen. So we're going to read this redstone signal from this face of this node. This is our redstone node, and this is the south face. So if there's a redstone signal applied to this, it means that the agglomeration plate is busy and we should not do any crafting. So let's go in here, and we're going to go down and we're going to check to the evaluation section. So we're going to evaluate a particular thing, and the redstone one. Or we could have just filtered on redstone's criteria, and we've got these ones. So we would have events, an evaluation, or an operation. Well, we want to evaluate something. We're wanting to evaluate that redstone signal. Turn it off. And you'll see that this needs our attention as well, because this down here, it needs to be told which block and which side of that block. So, well, it's the redstone node that we're interested in. So the redstone node, and we want to say the south side of that. So we're reading off the south side. And if we have a look, let's turn that back on. If we shift, it gives us more information about these, and you'll see result at the bottom there in yellow, read the redstone value, and in brackets, integer. So this is actually going to evaluate and store the value of the redstone signal in as an integer, that integer being 0 through 15 possibly, giving the redstone value. So what we want to do now is we want to test that value. We want to see, is that value actually 0? So what we're wanting there is we're going to test, is it equal to 0? We could do, is it greater than 0? But we're wanting to see if it's 0 in this instance. There's a couple of different ways to skin a cat, obviously, so we'll just use this one. So again, there's something we need to do. We need to tell it what value we are wanting to check. Now, it's not a constant in this instance. We're wanting to check what the value of that last function was. So if we click on function, the first one that comes up is the last integer. Remember, this was going to be giving us it was going to be giving us the integer value there as the result. So we're checking that last integer value. And what do we want to check it against? Well, we want to see, is it 0? Okay, that's that. Now you'll see as I've been laying these down, little green dots appear as I put the next thing down, and that signifies the flow through the task sequence, as it were, through the program. So once the timer triggers, it goes on to the redstone evaluation. Once it's done that, it goes on to testing the actual value, and that's all well and good. This, however, has two options to it. Obviously, this test can turn out to be true, or it could turn out to be false. So when we do this, we can actually manually set these and set these little things up to point in whichever direction we want by double-clicking on the little thing. But we have a situation here where one of these options is going to be false. So we want to take an action when it isn't 0. So when this redstone signal is high, we don't want the program to do anything. We want it to stop and just wait for the next time around. And a second later it'll check again to see if the altar is busy. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to double click this one to make it green, then I'm going to double click it again. So you've got to set the false one first, because you've got to set it to true first, and then you set it to false, and then we can double click this one again and set that to green. So now we've got the evaluation. Is the redstone value 0? No. Okay then, well if it's not, we're just going to stop the program. We're going to go down to one of these, this operation stop program here, drop that there. So the program's just going to go, no, okay, I'm going to stop, and the next time this timer event comes around, I will check again, and it'll keep on doing that, basically in a loop. If the redstone is equal to 0, it means then that the agglomeration plate is empty. It means it's free to go, and we can start crafting. And that is where we start doing our crafting operation. So if we filter this, we can go, right, we want to get ourselves get ingredients. So we're going to go and get ingredients from the input node, and it's the east side that will have the stuff in it put in by the crafter. We don't need to worry about the access thing. That is for blocks that you can only access a particular side of to input or output from. That would be things like vanilla furnaces are like that, and some mechanism machines in particular as well. Next up is card inventory, card inv here, and this is the inventory adjacent to a block, network block, with crafting cards in it. So when it says network block, it means either the processor or a node on the same network. Remember, our network is set up to be the Terra channel. That's what it means. So the card inventory is actually on the processor, so we don't give it a node name. Just, if you leave that blank, it knows you mean the processor, and we'll set it to the upside because that is on the top of the processor there. Cool. And it's still flashing at us. It needs to know what item we want to make. So we're making terrasteel. Take a terrasteel ingot and drop it into the item thing, and that tells it which of these crafting cards. You could have multiple of these crafting cards in here depending on what you're doing, and it tells it which one we're going to be making, and then it's asking which slots to use. And if you remember, when we set up this, it's using slots 0 to 2. So we'll set that as well. Just tells it when it gets the ingredients from that chest where to put them inside. Oops, no. Where to put them inside the processor, and that's that. It stopped that flashing thing. Now the thing with that is, you could be very unlucky, and this crafter starts putting the ingredients in here, and you might only have, say, the mana pearl and the mana steel, and then suddenly this thing goes, I'm going to check, and not all of the ingredients are in there. And this thing, it's not intelligent enough at that point to know that it hasn't got all the ingredients. It's just going to get all the ingredients it can. So there's a check that we can do at that point, and it's this evaluation check ingredients. So we're going to check the ingredients, we're going to say the card inventory again is the upside of the processor, and again we're going to say you're meant to be making terrasteel, and again we're going to say, well, check slots 0 through 2 to see if you've got those ingredients. Cool? And that's going to tell us, give a true or false. There we go, our result. If the ingredients are complete, Boolean. Now, Boolean's a funny term, but programmers know it well. Boolean is effectively, is something true or is something false? And we want to do an evaluation, so back down to the pink section again, and we see here there is a test to see if a value is set true or false. So let's check that, and the value to test is the output from the last function. These pink ones, it's generally the function button that you're going to do, and it's automatically picked up that we're checking the last Boolean because it's a Boolean equation that we're checking. So there we go. So again, this is one of the pink ones, so it's got an option of being true or false. So again, we're going to go up here and set this to the red dot, and we'll set that one to the green dot manually. And if we don't have all of the crafting stuff, if it's only part way through doing it, then the chances are it's because it was quick off the mark and just grabbed the stuff before this had finished inputting the stuff. So really we don't want to stop because this stuff is still going to be in here. So what we actually want to do is we want to go down to the actions, and there's a mass or push multiple items. Not mass push items, but push multiple items. We'll put that up the top, and we're going to say, well, we want to access the storage of the input block, again, the input node. And we're going off to the east side, again, of that, and we're going to put all of the stuff from the slots 0 through 2 back into that, and then we're going to stop the program again. So basically it's gone through here, it said yes, we're going to trigger. No, we don't have a redstone signal on there. I'm going to grab any ingredients. Have I got all the ingredients? No, I don't. Okay, put what I have back in the box and stop. Basically it's going to come round and do it again in a second's time. So it should by that point have managed to put all the stuff back in. Again, if it's not, if it's still doing it, then it will just go through and stop and wait and keep on waiting until it gets the valid recipe through. And at that point, then we can start doing something else. We are now at the point of starting crafting, and the very first thing that we want to do is say, okay, then we're starting crafting. The agglomeration plate is now busy from this point on. So we want to set a redstone signal. So not the blue one for reading it, but the green one this time. It's an action. We're going to set the redstone node, and we're going to set the side of it, the north side, to a level of 15. We'll just use the highest value. And there we go. So as soon as this starts crafting, the north side, this side is going to emit a redstone signal. It's going to go through here and turn this on, which means the south side will be getting a redstone signal. So if this comes back round again, the event is going to say, nope, you have got a redstone signal there. I am going to stop and wait. That's what that's going to do. Cool. Now what we can do is we can start using the same one again for pushing multiple items, and we'll put that there, and we're going to say, well, we want to use the input block, but this time we're going to the west side of it, and we'll do slots 0 through 2 again, like that, and that's that. So we're going to push everything that we've got in slots 0 through 2 to the west side. So it's this chest it's going to push to now. So it's detected it's got all the ingredients, and it's now started to craft. And it puts them in here. This gets fed through via the conduit into the phantom face, goes up through our precision item dropper, and will drop onto the terrasteel agglomeration plate. That is mostly the crafting done at this point. However, we need to see When is it finished? Well, our ranged collector here will pick up a terrasteel ingot, and only a terrasteel ingot, as soon as it forms. So once the crafting's finished, our terrasteel ingot is going to appear in here, and that's why we've got our output node. So let's go in here, and we're wanting to check and see in that the collector thing. Let's see if we can detect what we're looking for. So we're going to the output node, and that collector is attached to the top side of it. So let's go in there. We don't care which slot to do, it's an optional, and if we don't fill that in, it means it's going to check every slot in there. So that's exactly what we want to do. I mean, it's going to pop into the first slot, but just in case, we don't need to set that, so why bother? And it means we are a little bit safer. And we're going to check for terrasteel. So it's going to check through every slot in there for terrasteel. Cool. Leave everything else blank as it is. Now, that is going to give us a result of an amount of items, an integer amount of items. So again, we're going to test this, and is it greater than, the last integer, is it greater than 0? Do we have a terrasteel in there, or more than one? There shouldn't be more than one, but hey, we'll just fail safe. Is there terrasteel in there? No, there's not. Up the top, yes there is. Off this way. Okay, so no, there's not terrasteel. We're going to wait. We're going to wait a second. And then we're going to use this thing up here, this grey one. And this is an operation wire. All that does is it connects things. So by using the little green dot, we're saying it's going to go, is there a terrasteel in that inventory? Is it more than 0? No. Okay, wait a second and go back and check again. So this is just going to wait for the terrasteel. Now we could set that to be an awful lot less, but once a second check is fine. We're not in that much of a hurry for the terrasteel, and we don't want to overload the server. So there we go. If this checks in there and there is a terrasteel, then we want to set the redstone signal to 0. Now this is set up here. This importer is set to only work without a redstone signal. So it's actually importing right at the moment. It's importing anything that goes in there. When this thing is crafting though, it is set to not. It's set to not import via the redstone signal that's coming up here. So for as long as this thing says it's crafting, this is going, the terrasteel will sit in there. So it gives it time to pick it up. So once it's crafted, then we can say, okay, then we can now set that redstone signal in the redstone node. We want to set the north side, and we want to set that to 0. And that's it. It is done. Now, we want to put a stop on this just to signify that we have actually. We could leave it, but it's best practice to actually have a stop program, and we've just run out of space here, so I can put it on the bottom of there, and it'll be fine. So that should be us done. Now, what we need to do then, of course, is to load this into our program. Now I have one here already set up called Terrasteel, and I'm just gonna save that there and pop that back in here. And we can put that into here, and that is good to go now. Right, I don't have enough mana at the moment to do this, but I can simulate it working. Let's order up a terrasteel. Get that out of the way. Let's say we order 2 terrasteel. Right, we'll order 2 terrasteel, and we'll hit start. And there we go, one lot of stuff has gone up onto the the thing. And this thing, I've taken the spark off here. That's how it's not draining mana, because we don't have enough mana, but it would drain all of that and waste it. So imagine that this is busy forming into a terrasteel. We'll grab that up at the moment, and then what we'll do is we'll chuck down one of the terrasteel that we already have. But before we do that, imagine it is still forming. We'll see that we actually have the redstone signal on, saying that no, don't craft anything else. This stuff's sitting waiting in here, and it's not going to do anything at the moment. Now, I did change this a little tiny bit. I put in a wait after here. I was getting some funny things where the redstone signal wasn't staying on for long enough. And I also took the delay right down to 1 tick on the repeater. So that seems to have solved that problem. But imagine that now this has formed. Whoop! It has suddenly grabbed that up, and then a second later the next lot of terrasteel ingredients have appeared on the agglomeration plate. How fantastic! And now we'll just go and throw this one down, and there we go, it's immediately soaked that up. And if we go back down here, we'll see the redstone signal is off, and it has completed that. And if we even have a look in our wireless crafting monitor, nothing there. Excellent! And that is that done. So that's how that can be completely automated. I could probably do something that, for safety's sake, because I could order terrasteel, and this thing would destroy my mana at the moment. But I could have something set up so there's a mana pool underneath here that it's checking the level of, to make sure that it's actually got enough mana to be able to do that. I might do that in a little bit, but we don't really have the resources to do that quite yet. Now, and this is going to be an uber long episode, but let's go over and have a look and see what we've got with this setup. So this is largely exactly the same sort of idea. We've got an input node. This is channel runes. We've got an input node, we've got an output node, and we've got a redstone control node. All kind of the same stuff. We do have more stuff in here though, because we've got 4 CPU cores and we've got 2 program cards. Now, grab these out of here at the moment. I've got 4 cores but only 2 cards, because later on there will be 4 cards in here, but I haven't done all of the work as yet. So let's clear that, and let's put our runes in there and load this, and we'll see a fairly complicated looking program. But if you'll notice, pretty much from this point down it is duplicated. Okay, so it's much like the other one. This kind of bends round to give us more space here, but we're starting off with an event repeat, and we're reading the redstone signal from the control, the redstone control there, just like we have with our terrasteel one, and it's checking to see if it's 0. Then it's going to get ingredients and checking those ingredients, and if they're not there, continuing to go round and round and round until such times as it can. In this instance, we've actually got it working slightly differently. It pushes the items, waits a little bit, and then does another get ingredients, whereas our one with the terrasteel just went back to the start, because we are doing multiple different recipes, so that's why it's doing that, because we don't want to have to go back to the start each time. But yeah, if it's got the ingredients, it puts them into the other side of the input thing, sets the redstone signal, and then does this loop where it's checking to see if the item it's it's crafting is in the chest, and it goes through and sets the redstone signal to off when it has found it, and stops the program. Now, the bit here is, if it doesn't find all the stuff that it's looking for, it pushes the items out and waits a second and goes, but it doesn't go back to this get ingredients. It goes down to the next get ingredients. So basically it's going, do I have the ingredients for a rune of mana? Go and get them, check. No, I do not have the ingredients for rune of mana. Put the stuff back in the box and come round. Now, do I have the ingredients for a rune of earth? Yes, I do. Carry on and do it. No, I don't. Come down here, push the stuff back into the input chest, go get ingredients again, and this time try for a rune of air. And it continues down, doing earth, air, fire, water, until it gets right down to the bottom here. And again it will test, and this time it's going to say, no, I didn't have any of the ingredients for any of those items. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to push the items back into the input chest, and then I'm just going to do, I'm going to send a signal. Now this send signal thing is what's used by runes 2. I'm going to load that, go up to the top, and that's what triggers this one. So the event for this one's not a timer, it's looking for the signal, and it's looking for the signal runes 2 from that first program. And this one is then going through and doing pretty much exactly the same thing. It's shifted over slightly so it lays out slightly better, but we're now looking for, do you have the ingredients for runes of spring? Yes, I do. I will go and do the crafting sequence that we are now familiar with. No, put the stuff back in the box, go down, check the next one, rune of summer, and so on and so forth, and until this one gets down to the bottom of this, and it's going to send a signal saying, no, I didn't find any of the crafting ingredients for any of the crafting recipes in this one. I'm going to send a signal runes 3, and that's where our next runes programs are going to come in. So we've got runes 2, then we'll have runes 3 and runes 4 for all the other rune recipes, but I haven't quite got around to that yet. If I do rune of, so we've got recipes for the water, for the fire, for the earth, for the air, and for the mana in runes 1. Then for spring, summer, autumn, and winter in runes 2, and then we will need to do, because we've only got space in those cards for doing 3 or 4, we'll need to put for the lust, gluttony, greed, and sloth in one, and then for wrath, envy, and pride in the other one. So that will be those, and that will be us fully done for all of our runes. And that will be that, and that's it. That's it for this episode, folks, and I think it's been quite long enough, but that does kind of give you an idea. For those of you not interested in RFTools Control, then I'm amazed you're still watching. But don't worry, unless I'm doing something substantially different to what we've just done, I will gloss over this in the future and I will just do a quick highlight of this. But hopefully for those of you that want to get your teeth into RFTools Control, I've been a little bit concerned about it, but maybe do want to give it a go. It's not that confusing. It looks very confusing and there are programming terms, but don't let that put you off. It's pretty simple stuff once you get going with it. And that's it, folks, and I shall hopefully see you the next time. Bye-bye. Have a funs. See you next time.